Council, direct staff and prepare a plan for the future West Allis Senior Center. First thing, is Trish here?
Trish Wickenhauser?
Yeah.
I talked to her today. She said she would not be here today.
Oh. Well, she had called me and said if some people from the senior center would like to speak. Does any of them want to speak? Anybody?
Certainly.
Yeah, well, come on up here.
You sit in the chair or what?
Yeah, come on, sit in the chair here. And,
Tell us who you are.
yeah.
There's Mark Teagues. T as in Tom, I-E-G-S. Member of the senior committee, or senior citizen there. And as a member of the senior center, they've asked me to speak on behalf of the Commission on Aging.
Okay.
Commission on Aging is requesting that we table the resolution for further discussion with the Commission on Aging due to some ambiguities, further definitions, and clarifications that need to be done in the resolution.
Can you define, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you define what those would be?
If you want, we've actually gone through and made a written document as such with cross-outs and additions. If you'd like, I can go through each one of those, or I can pass them on, and you can look at them later. Which would you like to do?
I prefer just to hear from them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Consensus of the chair is-
How many are there?
No need to delay.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like copies to look at?
Yes,
If you have them, yes.
and then you're going to read from there, correct?
Yes. There's,
I'll pass them. You need them too, right?
need one.
Okay.
You got one.
Does he have enough?
That way, we need some. I'll just read through it. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of West Allis directing, instead of staff, we identify a committee comprised of senior center staff, members of the Commission on Aging, members of the senior center, and selected employees from affiliated City of West Allis departments to, instead of prepare, we want to complete a study, not a plan. A plan is something we have to act on and actually make forward. We need to go ahead and find out what we're really going to put together in a plan for the future of West Allis Senior Center by working with community partners and Commission on Aging. That's more or less self-definitive. Body, whereas the City of West Allis Senior Center, we host the Milwaukee County Senior Nutrition Program. We do not, it's not part of our system, it's actually the Milwaukee County system, so I want to make sure that that was identified. And also, as we go through numerous classes and activities, support groups, stock box distribution, information, and referrals to seniors 55 years of age and above. It's not just over 360 members, it's a fair number of seniors that come into our facility that are not members. Whereas the West Allis West Milwaukee School District Recreation Department, West Allis Public Library, and more than 15, there's a for-profit senior facilities. They're not just senior living facilities. And also provide services to West Allis residents, not just seniors, that are individually, partially offerings of those services offered by the West Allis Senior Center. So those facilities are only providing a partial of the services that the West Allis Senior Center provides. The next whereas, in 2018, the facilities assessment audit conducted by McKinstry outlined, I struck out that and went for a little bit further discussion. Cost, for maintenance and repair, costs at the West Allis facilities, including 6 office buildings. There's City Hall, the Health Department, Senior Center, Library, Police Department, or Police Headquarters, and the Fire Administration. The McKinstry report estimated maintenance and repair costs in 2018 dollars for the 6 office style buildings at over 30 years at $24,340,643, with the net present value of the cost increased by 5% annually for inflation. Of the $24 million in total maintenance and repair costs for the 6 office buildings, the senior center's portion is $1.7 million, or 7.2%. And the next whereas stayed the same. Obviously, there's limitations as far as the financial limitations, so I did not look into any of that. The next one, whereas, instead of I struck out with working with community partners and Commission on Aging to prepare, I just said, whereas completing a study for the future of the West Allis Senior Center would provide a foundation to prepare a plan to continue services to existing and future senior center members. Again, the biggest thing here is we need to put together a study before we can go and put together a plan relative to any financial implications. Then whereas general fund savings may be achieved through set of relocation, consolidation, so forth, we're looking at through various programs that will be investigated and reported in the study. Lastly, therefore, it be resolved that the Common Council of the City of West Allis directs the committee, as defined above, to prepare a study for the future of the West Allis Senior Center by October 1st. In 4 months to put together a plan was ridiculous, to put together a study, even in that period of time, to contact outside service, things such as the senior centers and so forth, senior living facilities and so forth, 15 of them, plus other neighbors and so forth. I mean, we can't get enough people together in 4 months. So that's what we recommend, to go ahead and change the resolution to, if it's going to continue forward. In addition to that, we put together some specific stats. And that is the Commission on Aging did begin work on a senior center staff on the study primary topics and the supporting data. The study topics included socioeconomic demographics of the senior center members, surrounding communities that may have an interest in partnering with the senior center, other nonprofit organizations, complementary West Allis and surrounding community departments, for-profit organizations such as senior living facilities in West Allis and surrounding communities, volunteer assistance, grants, foundation donations, and corporate sponsorships. So those are things that we want to go ahead and look at. And you can see in the period of time that was theoretically allotted, there wouldn't be enough time to put all that together. So, but a few statistics just for your information, what the senior center is doing at this point in time. For a two-person household, 25% of the members have less than $19,800 in income annually. 33% of the members have $32,950 or less income annually. 18% of the members are less than $52,700, and 24% of the members are over $52,700. So we're really looking at 60% of our members are basically under $33,000 annual income. So we're really looking at families that are not very viable financially wise. Membership ages, 28% are over 80 years old, 41% are between 70 and 80, and 31% are between 55 and 70. So you can see we definitely have an aging type of membership. 79% of the members are West Allis residents. Now, we haven't had time to go back and plot them on a map to go ahead and find out exactly where they're located, but based upon the income and the ages, we're pretty much guaranteed that they're going to be more in the eastern part of West Allis. We looked at data in the new computer system from December 1st, 2019 through February 25th of 2020. There was 28,903 membership activity hours were logged in. That's only in 3 months. This equates to 507 hours of membership activity hours per day of operation. On an annualized basis, this equates to 126,750 membership activity hours, or 15,844 8-hour days, or the equivalent of 63 members using the senior center every open day for 8 hours a day. The activity is high. The average number of members visiting the senior center each day from December 1st, 2019 to February 25th, 2020 is 116, reflecting that the average member spent 4.37 hours per day at the senior center. So again, this is a social place for them. In the months of December 2019, January, and February 2020, the senior center distributed stock boxes. There were 111 in December, 113 in January, and 121 in February. Based on a two-family household, the maximum qualifying income is $21,983. So we're even lowering the bar at this point in time. The last thing I want to talk about is the volunteers. The overall cost of operating the senior center is understated by the value of the volunteers. The senior center has 123 volunteers, 79 member volunteers, and 44 non-member volunteers to make up the 123. From December 1st all the way through February 25th, the Senior Center received 3,396 volunteer hours. Based upon state estimates of what a volunteer labor is worth of $25.43, that equates to $345,000 that the Senior Center did not have to expend to go ahead and provide those services. Now, that's more than what the whole budget is for the Senior Center. So you'd be looking to add on another 6 personnel, basically, just to go ahead and operate the Senior Center, if it wouldn't be for the volunteers. So if you look at cutting, you got 50%, you got a 60% cut right there just because of the volunteer activity that's going on. I like to compare that to some of the other departments in the city.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Road.
Could you, what you just read us, not tonight, but get us a copy, every member of this committee? And also, if you want to just, if you could refresh me for sure, but maybe someone else on this committee, what a stock box actually is?
Stock box is
I know it's free food, but I think there's a little more than just free food.
I'd have to defer that to someone else that's more.
There's a hand raised over here.
Carol?
Carol?
Council members, I'm back. As in the stock box,
Carol, could you come up here? Sure. The microphones are up here, I'm sorry. Have a seat.
as I waddle. The stock box consists of minor things that you would need to live on for a week, a month, I'm sorry. There's noodles, there's canned goods, peanut butter, cereal. Senior moment, cereal. Every month it kind of changes. There's usually 2 juices, like apple juice and a grape juice, or that way. There's cheese. And lately we've been getting, and it's considered part of the stock box, it's leftovers that the government has to distribute. And we've been getting like pork roast, milk, eggs, more peanut butter, oranges, apples, eggs, but it isn't the same thing every month. The stock box rotates. It basically depends upon what they can get, what they have that they can give to these people. And believe me, I do the door, and these people are very dependent upon what is in there. I mean, like spaghetti noodles, elbow noodles, that type of thing. Oh, there's powdered milk. There's another type of milk that you can leave it on your shelf forever until you open it.
Condensed milk?
I think that's what it is, right? And that, but these people basically thrive on what they get in that stock box. And we're there from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till 3 o'clock, and it doesn't stop. It's a steady stream.
Okay.
And that. So is there any other questions on what's in the stock box?
And
I think you
my
covered it.
comment, if I'm wandering,
Go ahead.
rein me in, but, and a lot of that now we're getting because of the China situation, right? Like the
Some of the
dairy and
extra,
cheese.
some of the extra stuff, no, cheese is an automatic thing every month.
Okay.
And
But
it's-
some of the other items.
Some of the other items are because of right, but there are two that these people look at it like this is we call it, what's our bonus? You know what I'm saying that way, because I am a stock box member, I get a stock box every month, you know what I'm saying? At times we got grapes, we got apples, we got oranges, but like I say, people depend on this basically at times to live from month to month. So did anybody else have a question?
No, I think that pretty well covers it. So, does anybody on the committee do we want to go over this again? Obviously, it was just submitted to us.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Road?
I mean, yeah, that's one of my notes. Yeah, I'd like to look at this. And also the structural deficit committee meeting is this Thursday, which I'm sure somehow this will come up. Do we want to wait to hear about that too?
Well, that's an ongoing thing, so they're not making any decisions soon.
Well, it's going to be discussing expenditures in the future years.
Right, but they're doing a process of going through department head and stuff, so I don't know if they're going to be discussing this at the next meeting. Mike would know, he's on there.
Yeah, I have no problem with holding this. I don't know if necessarily, I'd want to think about how the this is comprised and also the due date on this. I have no problem with study and all these other changes. It's just more factual information. That's fine. I think that's really the end.
Clarification.
Yep,
And I'd
it's
like
it's
to,
really the
I'd like
intent
to
of what
invite
this
you
is.
gentlemen, the second Tuesday of every month, 1 o'clock in the afternoon is Stock Box. You're more than welcome to come and see how this works and how the people move through and get their things. And we can always use an extra hand outside putting stuff in the cars.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, one more thing.
Mike May still has it.
Oh,
This way.
how long am I gonna-
I've hardly even started.
I didn't know that. Okay, sorry.
So I want everyone to know where this is coming from.
Oh.
First of all, there was a false news press release put out that we're going to close the center, we're going to cut programs. That has not been the plan at all from the beginning, and I will concede that the wording in the original resolution was not the best, but that was never the plan to shut it. It was never to cut programs. So what was happening in the city right now is through the budgeting process, one of the ideas that came out of it was to put together a structural deficit committee. And the purpose of this committee is to find ways for the city to operate more efficiently and ways that we might be possibly saving money. So for example, every department has to come before our committee, our structural deficit committee, and give to us if, for some reason, your budget was cut by 3%, and then by 5%, what things would you do differently to improve your operations, or what things would have to be cut? And every department's doing this. We're obviously not going to go out and say, all right, everyone, you're cut 3 to 5%. That's not at all the intent. This is a planning exercise so we can better understand ways to be more efficient. Now, the city is in a bit of a bind. We have two things that control how much the city can spend. One is levy limits, which is set by the legislature, and another thing is called expenditure restraint. Now, expenditure restraint, I can't remember the exact percentage, but I want to say it was around 1.5% increase that was allowed in terms of the amount of money the city could bring in through tax revenue. Sadly, the cost of health insurance is going up 7 to 11% per year. The cost of our infrastructure is going up, 10+% per year. And so what happens is when the cost of the things you're doing far exceed the amount that the legislature allows us to bring in, we need to find ways to operate more efficiently and smarter. Now, through this is not the first facility we've looked at. We've looked at the Department of Public Works. We hired an outside consultant to go through, better understand the operations, and suggest ways that we might improve the operations there. We had a consultant come through and help us at City Hall do the same thing. So I've had people tell me, well, how come this isn't the first building? And then the second question is, well, how come you're not going to an outside consultant? Because I think that's kind of impersonal. Personally, I think it would be much better to be run by staff. Denise, I would imagine you'd be on that committee. I'd imagine a member from the Aging Commission, or Commission on Aging, would be on that committee to help just look at the way things are done. Are there opportunities for maybe combining facilities in the future? Not now, 10, 20 years in the future? Would it make sense that we have a health department here, we have a library here, we have a senior center here? Might it make sense at some point in the future to combine facilities? What if in the future, I've heard several candidates in the 3rd district bring up the idea of a community center. What if we want a community center? What are the needs of the senior center in order to accommodate that? So the purpose of this study is not to close the senior center. The purpose of this study is not to cut programming. The purpose of this study is to better understand operations, how we might do things more efficiently in the future. So let's see if there was anything else I wanted to cover. I think that covers it. So I just want everyone to know that we're just trying to understand better how the city works so that together we can move forward more efficiently.
Do you have anything else
I
after that?
would just like to ask the health commissioners here, Robert Leischel, is this going to be discussed at this Thursday's meeting with the structural deficit? I know health department is up. Is there any mention of it, or?
It'll be referenced as part of that presentation, but we won't get into any detail.
Okay, all righty. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, nothing? So we'll just hold this, go through this, take a look at it, and bring it up probably at our next meeting, if everybody looks at it and everything. So Okay,
The other thing we wanted to add is here's a whole pile of testimonials
okay,
from members of the senior center.
Thank you. Thanks.
okay.
Can you scan that and just email it to us?
Yeah, we got it here, so.
The testimonials are handwritten.
Yeah, these are more testimonials. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Duplicates of that.
Duplicates. I should add, my grandmother does participate in the Stocks Box program.
Okay,
And Meals on Wheels and.
so
On top is Carol.
you'll be contacted next time we have a meeting and discuss all that. You know, let senior center know and various people, so you all know.
And Wayne Haas.
Okay, let's move to item 3. Taylor Rusniak?
You want to let them go?
Yeah. Everybody can go? Everybody can go, no? Okay,
Yeah, but they're all.
did you have any more questions for? I think we asked the other two guys questions, but we have to have the agent here.
Who wasn't here last week?
Yeah, he wasn't.
You're the
So
agent.
I'm the agent, correct.
Did you happen to watch our little YouTube conversation about this, or?
I told them about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
he filled me
Okay.
in. Yep.
What, Mr. Chair, if I could?
Sure.
And again, your background in alcohol service? You had done-
So off premise, I worked for Quick Trip as a general manager for 6 years. So I actually currently hold the agent license for the store in Butler on 124th Street, which expires in June.
Need everyone to be quiet, please. We're having a meeting here. And we're
So
continuing on.
I haven't done any on premise. I don't have any experience with that, but I'm pretty well versed in most of the rules and
I
regulations.
understand, buy from licensed wholesalers only, bartender on
Correct.
premise, all
Yep.
that, don't serve. And we'll give the same speech that we always give. We expect you and your staff to be partners with the community if there's a problem. It looks like you're just going to be running kind of just a straight up tavern, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
One pool table, some video games.
Yeah.
There's a kitchen there currently, right?
Yeah,
And,
pretty decent sized kitchen.
and I think you were showing like 40% food sales. Was that your estimate? I'm sorry, I didn't review it today. I looked
Yeah,
at it.
I think just
Maybe it was 30, 70, 30.
I think
or
70 I think 70,
60, 30, and 10 was going to be something
60,
else.
30, 10, something like that.
Entertainment, yeah.
Correct.
So, well, I mean, that, the place had maybe some problems in the past. I don't know how much that was based on the neighborhood versus the management there. I'm going to guess it was mostly the management.
No comment.
But we're looking forward to, so it's 3 partners, and
And I'll be full-time operating.
you'll be
within the
there
building.
full-time, and anybody have other day jobs? Yes?
Yeah, me and the other guy run a few businesses,
Okay, and what kind of businesses are those?
primarily ATM machines. We have
Okay.
135.
Oh, okay, okay, so you know the vending side of that of
Yeah.
the business?
Couple rental properties.
Okay,
Stuff like that.
okay.
Okay.
And timeline, do you guys have a timeline? Have you bought the property yet? You're waiting for this?
Closed Friday.
You closed last Friday?
We do.
Will close, okay, okay. And then there's going to be inspections and all that, you understand how that process all works?
Yeah, we tend to be functional maybe third week in March,
Okay,
around there, March 20th, toward the end of that, maybe April 1st.
okay. Well, welcome to West Allis.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'm going to ask one.
Yeah, I'll ask.
All on me?
Cale, there was an individual in this application who has quite a history, some misdemeanors and some felonies. They did look older, probably more than 10 years ago. But typically, we wouldn't give a liquor license until someone is shown that they've been rehabilitated. How do we handle that for properties and actual licenses for premises?
So there's something of a timing issue here that might be able to be taken advantage of by the committee. And that the individual, I've got records from 2007, 2008 is the last.
Those are the ones I saw.
record.
Yeah.
So if the committee wants to consider that at all or wants to hear from that individual, that's something that could happen. And because this is a separate license and health committee meeting that won't be heard by the council until next week, there's a lapse in time there. So if the committee wants to, for example, proceed with approving the license today, but somehow gets information that changes the committee's mind next meeting on the 3rd, then you could take action at that point in time before the final resolution of this motion. Otherwise, it could be held until Tuesday as well. Not sure if that's going to work for the applicants because they're trying to close on the building on Friday. So there's a couple ways to do it that would proceed with it. Yeah, it is an issue I was going to bring up, but again, these are 12-year-old cases. Although they're serious, there's been nothing since.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would think that they have been rehabilitated because we haven't had another issue come up since '08.
So that's the, part of the standard is that showing evidence of rehabilitation and having no further charges for 12 years would be certainly something the committee could consider.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigl?
I guess a question on that.
I don't have it here.
I'm looking at there's 3 partners in the business. There's going to be 1 agent. I don't believe it was the agent that has the
he's the
checkered,
agent.
that has the checkered background.
He's the agent.
And being a partner in a business is not granting that individual a bartending license.
Right.
The agent has the rights and responsibility to be a bartender there, but the other people, we're not granting the other people bartending licenses at this point.
Right.
So it's, they have an ownership stake in the business. That does not let them become bartenders. It's just the agent in this case.
That
Well,
is-
Go
That
ahead.
is a correct statement, in that they would not necessarily be the bartender per se, not the agent. The statute just requires that all directors, members, or managers have the same qualifications as the agent would have as well. That's the only reason this is even a topic for discussion.
Okay, but if the agent is on the premises, he could bartend. The two other partners could bartend.
Anyone could bartend.
Anyone can bartend.
Right.
Supervision.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Okay.
anyone can bartend. Or any other licensed bartender on the
make sure.
premises. And they're under their direct supervision. Being on the premises is not enough. So,
Correct. Okay, is there any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
move approval, subject to necessary requirements.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Now this goes to the council on next week, Tuesday. So then they'll vote on it and everything, hopefully everything will be fine.
You will not necessarily need to be here next Tuesday. at the meeting. And this coming out of this committee unanimously will likely, unless we find some earth-shattering news in the next week, you'll likely be approved at next Tuesday's meeting.
The guy with the checkered background be there?
No, no.
If we had some questions, we'll, somebody can contact you.
Yeah.
I think the clear record for 12 years shows us he's been rehabilitated. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Let's see. Deborah Ramirez,
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigl.
I spoke to Ms. Ramirez today. She's the owner at Mis Sueños. I spoke to her actually yesterday, about the incident in question. It was really just a matter of a minor incident of tossing sour cream, and I believe there may have been some guacamole involved also in
Well, we should-
disturbance.
We should find out about that.
I did stress upon her the importance of that when these, it might seem minor, but that's really not for them to decide, that we would be, she understands that we would be expecting them to call. They did know that the police had been called, so she did, and she was there, the owner was there at the time, but they brushed it off, and I said, well, call us next time. We just want to make sure that we know that they know what's going on in their establishment.
So she's not coming in,
No.
but pretty much she understands
Yes,
that she
does.
should have called.
I made it
so.
clear to her, she's my neighbor.
So do I have a motion?
Motion to place on file, Mr. Chair.
second.
All me. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Julio Crespo? Julio? That's Julio. For bartender's license?
There was no response from this applicant? They didn't-
They're not here yet, maybe they're, oh, it says no, okay.
Usually holds it until the end in case
Oh.
it
Yeah.
comes up.
Okay.
Yeah, give them some chance to show up. The other one, Salvador De Quisto. Okay, have a seat. Okay. You got an application, I believe it's a new application for a bartender's license.
Yep.
And the reason we're calling you in front of us, because, let's see, in Niagara, OWI, and anybody has an OWI, we call them in automatically.
Yeah.
Because you're in charge of, watching over people and everything, and
Distributing alcohol?
if you, obviously in your past, haven't been able to do it correctly, we just want to make sure that it's all taken care of. Does anybody else have anything? I think that,
You are the designated.
Alderman Weigel, your curse, you're good at it, so
So
your burden.
the point that Alderman Chapletsky was making, that on that one incident, I believe it was '09, you made some bad choices for yourself.
Yeah, I was young. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and you'll be making that decision for your customers
Yeah.
in the future. Where are you going to be working?
It's the Happy Tap on 68th and Beloit. My father and my uncle just recently purchased it.
Orders there?
Yeah, I manage my dad's bar in Menominee Falls, so I think that's Waukesha County or whatever. They've provided my license since I've been 21. Obviously, there was a little stint in between there where I wasn't working, but yeah, I had to go in front of the Waukesha board the same way I had to come here.
So what bar in Menominee Falls?
It's called Sal's Pub and Grill. It's on Main Street in Appleton.
Can't say I'm familiar with it, but that's a good thing. It's not in the news. So you're familiar with all the rules, licensed wholesalers, not serving minors.
Absolutely.
There may be an occasion when a compliance check is done and police have a aide in there who's maybe 19 or 20.
Oh, they already did that to me because I paid for the probationary one. It was like my 3rd week in there. They did that.
And did you serve the minor or did you card them in?
Oh, I thought you meant they checked my license.
Oh, no.
Oh,
There may be a
like
time
the
when they
sting
wouldn't-
operate? Yeah. No, I'm familiar.
Compliance check, not a sting.
We don't do stings.
Oh, sorry.
All together now.
Yeah, we've been taught.
Yeah, but the point is, and maybe you heard me mention to the owners of this new bar, is we want you to be a partner with the community if there's a problem. If you think you should call 911, pick up the phone and call 911.
Yeah,
We have trained professionals will come help solve the problem for you, if it needs it. But I guess with that, I'll move approval.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Once again, it's going to be voted on by the council next week, Tuesday,
in the mail, or-
and then, next week, Wednesday, you can pick it up.
If I get denied or approved.
No, Wednesday, you can pick it up at, the license, pick it up at the clerk's office, up until what time?
3.
Up until 3.
So
You don't have the license yet.
I know.
The whole committee acts, or the whole council acts on it next Tuesday. You will very likely be passed.
Right.
It came out of this committee 5-0.
Right.
You could
So
pick up
then
the
you
license
request
the next day if you need it right away.
Yeah.
If you don't pick it up the Wednesday after, it'll be mailed to you. But you already have a temporary.
I
and-
do.
And assuming it doesn't expire,
It's like
Yeah.
March 20th or something. So
then-
I got.
Okay. So you don't have
then
to
you'll be
worry about
okay.
it.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, thank you guys very much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Ashley Keel? Kyle? Ashley? Rebecca Madison? Let's see. Okay. Rebecca. Fingers don't work. Okay. And you probably know by now why we're calling you in.
Yes.
See, 05, 08. Is that the only one?
Yeah, the conviction date was 08.
So they're the same one, you're saying?
Yep, the offense date was in 07.
No, but, Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel?
we're showing 2 OWIs. here.
Yep.
Okay.
For the second one, the
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, it's a new license, and where are you going to be bartending? Oh, sports bar.
Area Sports Bar.
Right. Okay, well, you heard what Alderman
Yes.
May explained. That you got to watch it, especially now that you have 2. And let's see, did you go through any courses and stuff?
I did counseling back then, yeah. I
It
mean,
is
that was
some time back.
2007 or 2008. I was,
2008.
yep.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigel.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so you had some court ordered duties you had to do. You currently have a driver's license, so I assume that you went through all the steps so you'd consider yourself rehabilitated. Did you have a interlock device on your car for
I
a
did
period of
not,
time?
no.
That was probably
I think
the-
that was before.
Yeah, that's more common now. And you understand the issues that we have with OWI histories for licensed bartenders? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you.
Yep. Joseph Pape? Let's see. Hello. And we have with you, OWI again. So once again, it was, what, 11 years ago?
09, I think, something like that?
Yeah. And so, we haven't had anything after that? well, you say, you came in, you heard the speech already.
Yes.
And all the other things, and make sure that you call the police on any circumstances. Don't try to take care of it yourself, or don't try to push it out into the neighborhood. So,
Understood?
anybody else have anything?
Mr. Chair,
No,
where are you going to be working?
I'm at Capri de Nova right now, but we're working on Reunion too,
Right, so
so
you're going to be part of that.
I'm hoping
Open
that I'll be a big
business,
part of that, yeah.
That's really more of a restaurant atmosphere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 1997, you have a burglary?
Yep, I was 17, so I was charged as an adult. I was actually 16 when it happened, but they charged me as an adult.
That wasn't
so.
like robbing a liquor store or anything?
No, it was my girlfriend's house, actually, at the time, so
Love will make you do strange things.
you could say that.
Okay.
I don't know if it was love, I don't know what it was back then, but
Okay, do I have
A
any?
while ago, you're
Do I have any?
rehabilitated. right? Okay.
Seems like I was going to say, I don't know, I'm going into that.
Move approval. Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
thank you very much.
And you heard the thing with the license in the mail and
Yes,
pick it up?
yes. Thank you.
Jody Pulaski?
Olszynski.
Olszynski? Let's see.
Not my first day in West Allis.
Yeah.
Tuesday, so we got the postman.
Okay, so pick on me, why don't you? Okay, let's see what we have here. Oh, we had the 05 possession with intent, felony. So once again, it was, what, 15 years ago?
I was 19 years old.
And what charges did you get on it? What did, I mean, so what did they do?
They gave me, at 19, they gave me the option to go to prison or take the intent to deliver. It
Okay.
was just the amount that I
So-
had.
So I'm saying, what you went on probation, or did they fine you?
Yeah,
What-
instead of going to prison, I did house arrest, and then I went on probation, and I got off of that early for good behavior.
And you haven't done anything in the past few years like
No,
that?
the only thing I have are traffic
Speeding,
things.
yeah.
Nothing. I don't have anything else on my record.
So you would consider yourself rehabilitated?
Very much so.
Okay, does anybody else have anything?
Move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Holder? Okay, I don't know if you were aware of that, we had this in front of the Safety and Development Committee also, and they voted it all down,
Yes.
you know? So it's not going to go through, so all we're going to be doing on this tonight is just placing it on file. So we're not going to be able to do that, so.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigl.
I guess I could have looked, but was it, what was Safety and Development's logic on it? I see Alderman Barzak's here.
Not to put you on the
Was
spot.
it just not too big a place on Highway 100, not,
It was strictly to safety of the parking lot versus there's actually no exit. The only exit for the property
alley?
is the alley. And the Safety Development Committee did not feel that an alley should act as a proper exit to a business. And especially with the increased volume.
Okay.
And it was, everybody agreed. There was nobody that disagreed.
Sorry about that. Okay, so,
I move to place on file.
second?
If I, Mr. Chairman, if I just may add.
Harry, go ahead.
The other thing, we made clear at Safety and Development that everybody at Safety Development approved the other location when they were going to 92nd. So this has nothing to do with the applicant and/or that particular license. If they found a suitable location, everybody agreed that it would probably be approved. It's just that particular location, it just was not a safe location with the alleyway.
you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe I look.
Someplace else.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Police Department report.
Move to place on file.
Second.
Any further discussion?
This item is 12, 12 through 15.
12. Well, this is just 12 right here.
12.
12 for now.
Tomorrow, then we'll go through all the other. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then we have, let's see, 13, 14, 15. Is this a new one, number 16?
16 and 17 are older.
Yeah.
Old ones? Okay, let's just stop at 15.
Move to place these on file as well.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Then we have 16 and 17. These are old ones.
I move to place on file.
Mr. Chair?
Gail? Okay, let's hold on that motion for a second.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So in these particular cases, the reports relate to an incident that actually ended up resulting in the operator, Melissa Bayer, having her license revoked. So they were just not closed out, and I think it's a housekeeping matter for the clerk's office to place these on file.
Second.
Chair? Oh, I thought he withdrew.
Oh, did you?
I thought,
Okay, go ahead.
So you told me to hold on and.
Hold on this motion because
this
he's
was the
speaking.
one with
so.
the shooting and everything, and I thought we wanted to talk to the owner, or did we talk to him by having his bartender turn in her license?
Well, the bartender was a separate issue. As far as the bar owners themselves goes, we were unsure if it was a
I
part of
guess-
being uncooperative
Yes.
or not.
That's-
And Nick was looking into it and talking to him, I know, so, and checking with people. So.
I remember that police
Right.
report now, and I highlighted right away. The owner was very uncooperative, and that just like, so now it's like, bring him in.
Yeah. Well,
Mr. Chair?
on
I think I'd be inclined to lean towards Alderman Rhodes' suggestion. If I remember, was the owner not on premises
He
when it
wasn't on
happened?
premises and very rude and
he refused,
uncooperative.
But I believe he lives outside of the city.
Well-
He might have been at home, with a phone call at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I'll get it to you in the morning.
Well, that's,
That's part of your job.
And I'd like
One of the
to
responsibilities of owning a
know
bar.
exactly what happened. I'd like to know if he was rude and uncooperative, or if he might have been in Door County on vacation for all I guess.
no, because he showed up that night.
He showed up.
I
He
believe
showed
so.
up.
I don't think he showed up.
I don't
tonight.
think he showed up that night.
I think these are all reasons we should bring them in.
Bring him in.
There you go.
Yes, I'd like to hear
So
what he
I
had to say.
withdraw my motion to place on file.
Okay, hang on a second. Kale?
All I can report is what Nick told me in his research on this, and that the owners were apparently out somewhere at that time, and were not in a position to drive in to meet with anyone. And that in reviewing the reports, Nick didn't see anything that was obviously a wrongful act on the part of the owner. That's information I'm given from him.
And he could have been at home having 2 beers and didn't want to get in the car and drive down.
I'd still like to talk to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bring him in.
Okay, we'll bring in, that's number 16, number 17 is the bartender, which you already,
That one I'll move to place on file, number 17.
okay,
I'll second, and 17.
number 17, right?
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we have the ordinance to remove of the quota.
Mr. Chair?
Well, I'd like to start maybe with Kale, because you were the first one really to say, to recommend that possibly we could do this and the reason why and everything.
Sure thing. The reason that I brought it up is because when I originally came to West Allis, I noticed that the committee was using a different standard for how it reviewed new alcohol license applications. There was some indication that the committee felt compelled to issue them, and that is not the case under law. So upon advising the committee that in fact a new alcohol license is a discretionary act, it really makes a quota something that is just an extra step, but doesn't actually give the committee any extra authority or power. The same standards for denying someone based on a quota can be used to deny someone based on their license application already. So I saw it as being a superfluous step in the process, and that's why I presented it as an option for the committee, I think last year early sometime. And so if there is an interest from the committee for repealing that, that's something that we could do. the city really doesn't lose anything from a legal standpoint by doing so, and it gains in efficiency in processing licenses.
Okay.
Chair? I guess I'll say the same thing I've said for the last 3 or 4 years. I think the more we issue, the more diluted the existing licenses become. It's like the federal government printing more money. We're just printing more licenses. Again, I know I'm going to lose that one, but
We only have so many, though. The government has endlessly. Gary?
Mick, I'll give a little history on it. Going back to the 90s, at one time, West Allis had the label. We knew it. We had more licenses per capita than any other community. We got a bad rap. We had some bad names for West Allis. And the committee back then, that was the start of the redevelopment process. And redevelopment back then was, the first one we actually did was the Showman Harnisvegers site, where there were strip clubs and there were bars that were pretty bad. And we were able to weed those licenses out by the properties and then level them and redevelop that property. So at that particular time, the quota came in and we said, look, we're not going to issue any more licenses. We're going to have this work where if somebody needs a license, they can look to one of the other businesses and possibly buy that business. And of course, when you buy the business, it comes with the license. And it worked phenomenal. We were able to start to reduce these small and troublesome taverns, and they were going out, and it really worked. And everybody knew in the community that if you needed a license, all you had to do is go buy one of these ones that aren't doing real well, and you could get the license. 113th in Greenfield, there was a little bar, a little beer depot there called Gonrings. It also worked with the Class A's too. So that one, Pick and Save bought. Another good one was 66th. I think it was called Zogs. And yeah, and they were having, that was being redeveloped at the time in 66.
That is lost.
66 in Beloit.
He's talking about Greenfield.
Oh,
Yeah,
You're talking about Greenfield, you're talking about Beloit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We have too many bars.
Well, no, I was on the committee, and I knew why we were doing it and how it was actually working. And so what would happen is when the cigar store, Little Havana, wanted to open up there, they wanted a liquor license, because there's none available because we're at our quota. And so they caught wind that it was being redeveloped, and then Terry Herzog was trying to remove his tavern, and it was just getting too costly. So they went and they settled on a figure, I don't know what that figure was, and they got that license and eliminated another tavern and opened up Little Havanas. So that's how it worked. And as time went on, all of a sudden we had pressure coming in for some of these different restaurants, and I'm gonna use the example of on National Avenue across from the mayor's favorite place, because that's why it got the license.
Natty Oaks? No.
Chef Paz.
Chef Paz. You go, well, that's my favorite place that's got to have a license. And so it got a license, and we started to go over the quota, and then it just became easier and easier and easier. They hand these out. Then the businesses found out they don't have to do this anymore. They don't have to go looking, and the licenses are, and now we're, I think, 3 over quota. And I think a good example was a week or 2 ago when we gave one out to another tavern. Oh, the building's empty. Let's put a tavern in there. And we tried to clean that up. That was the whole purpose, that the committee and the mindset with the redevelopment process and the process to get West Allis back in a better light and eliminate some of these licenses and get them transferred to places that were going to do business with the restaurants, et cetera. Worked like a charm. We never had a problem saying you can't get one, and somebody would get one, and it worked. But again, we're past that now. We're at the point where I call it can't say no, and I believe that will continue, that the council and the committee on a whole will not be able to look somebody in the eye and say, nah, we don't want a tavern there, we're not going to give you one. I know we did one on 60th Street. We said no to, but, and thank God we had the quota, because we said, well, we don't have one really to give out. We're over quota. So it worked like a charm, but there's a different view, and I see it. I believe what will happen is these licenses, and I think, just like Alderman Groth said, I think they're going to go fast. And we're gonna be looking at our
We're about
regular
the state quota, yeah.
We're gonna be looking at our state quota real quick.
But, see, before, Gary, when these licenses would come in front of us, you know, when it was below quota still, you know, we couldn't, I was always under the assumption that, you know, if all the neighbors say we don't want it, we couldn't say, that wasn't a reason to say no. Legally,
If you're under quota.
if we're on a quota, right. Well, according to the law, according to Kale, we can do that just because the neighbors don't want it,
You
correct?
could have did back then too, because we denied licenses based on.
Not only could you do it for that reason, for a number of reasons, or because you simply don't want another license, even if the neighbors want the place.
Okay, so, you know,
I
so
get
what
that.
you're trying to, so basically, you know, if the committee doesn't want to give it, you know, we don't have to give it.
Correct,
And so,
correct,
but, so you're saying that using the quota, you use the quota as a tool,
absolutely.
you know, and so.
kept it in check.
And we did,
And then we went and passed the resolution to be able to, you know, have the public hearings, because they never had that opportunity in the past. It was, we're over quota, we can't issue one. It was set, that's it, we don't have one.
Mr. Chair?
And it changed, so.
all in, right.
I just wanted to maybe correct something that Alderman Barzak stated. We have had problems with people buying a business at one location and moving it to another. 92nd, the old White End Pantry, 92nd and Lincoln, that business was purchased and moved down to what became the corner spot. Okay, so just because someone's willing to invest in buying a business and moving it, that was under the old quota rule. I think most of you remember all the problems we had. You know, it really is up to the operator that makes the determination on whether a location is a problem or not. And I look at the places that we've granted licenses to over quota, okay? Double B's, I believe, was an over quota license, or not, that was not transferred from a different location, okay? Double B's Barbecue. What is currently the Crimson Club, it was opened as a piano bar. That was a new, non-existing license that we granted. And we have been granting licenses to what we see as unique businesses, that the kinds of things that we want to make the city a more interesting place to live in. I think well, you mentioned Chef Paz, you know, and I think there was one more that I can think of that was an over quota license.
Doyle's?
Doyle's Milwaukee Inn, yes. Yeah, when he moved into where, where Mi Sueños is now. Yeah, that was a new, non-existing license. It was an old, whatever, whatever it was. So, yeah, it was a big boy, I think, at one time. Back in your time, it was a big boy.
It was just a small boy then.
Okay,
So
It grew into
So
a big boy.
how someone gets a license doesn't always reflect on what kind of business they're going to operate. But I can say that we have granted some over quota licenses to locations that have turned out very well, I think, for the community.
Owen wrote you next?
I was just going to say 92nd and Lincoln was a Class A.
Yes, but this topic on quotas is about A's and
okay.
B's, correct?
Correct.
And this is about A's and B's, liquor stores and bar/restaurants.
And just point of clarification, the meeting last week, the 60th in Burnham was pretty close, 6-4,
Yeah.
the vote.
So, if I could add one more thing?
Go ahead.
My 40 years in the city, in the bar business in the city, the way I see it in the olden times, a corner bar, the owner's retirement plan was that someday, with the old quota system, even if his business wasn't worth any money, reality as making money.
The building.
Sales. Oftentimes these are just the business oftentimes are a tenant in a location also, not always, but oftentimes it's a owner operator. But the license had the business, which included a license, had some undefinable value. Well, I think we've seen that the market has changed to the point, I mean, we've had a couple of bars that have just plain closed up. I believe the Sail Inn over on Lincoln, that guy just went away. There was another one on Mitchell Street, June Bugs, I believe. I don't think that license was transferred anywhere either.
No.
So certainly the corner bar market has changed in the last, say, 2 decades, in West Dallas. So, and again, we have the tools now. Council passed a resolution several months ago giving us the power to more strictly manage and hold these licensees to the plan that they purport they're going to operate. If they say it's going to be an Italian restaurant doing 80% food, and that's what they have in their business plan, and it turns into
Frozen pizzas.
or Luigi's Sports Bar, or nothing against sports bars, but if so we have those tools now. So the licensed establishment environment has been changing. So, and you look at the developments we're doing with 70th Street and around the farmers market. I mean, just a real back of the napkin look, we're going to need like five or more combination, Bs and maybe an A or two in there also for,
Probably more reason.
yeah,
for-
maybe. But we have the tools now, so.
I just don't have the confidence that the committee and the council is going to have the nerve
Yeah.
to face somebody and say, no, I'm not giving you one because.
Well, we have already.
One time.
Well, one time
No, more than one
since
time.
we've been in this position,
More than
and
one time.
I believe we may be saying no more often in the future.
Okay, it was more than one time, but Gary, what you're saying, you say it in a manner of like attacking a person, have the nerve. Well, maybe they just have a difference of opinion.
Absolutely.
It may not be having the nerve. They just have a different look at that.
At the
So it
same
could be
time,
that thing. So
Not one, what do I want to use? Not one person that came in with a nice development has ever been not granted a license over quota. And I would continue to support that. When somebody comes in and is making a big investment into our city, rather than just leasing a place, paying rent, and getting a license, I think there's a huge difference. And I'm not sure if somebody would take it to court and say, this person got a license and doing anything. I don't see where I'm getting treated any different. Of getting a license over here, that, it's the same, it's a neighbor. I'm not sure, I don't know.
well,
Could be setting herself, I know.
that's
what
where he says
I know
he
what
doesn't have a
you're
problem with that. Go
but
ahead.
I'm still not sure.
Go ahead.
Happy to answer the question, because the same number of alderpersons it takes to approve or deny a license is the same number it takes to approve or deny going over quota. So you gain nothing with a quota from a legal standpoint. So saying in one case, you were denied because you didn't get it, the quota held you up, but you granted over quota for someone else, you have to have the same legal stance as if you had just said, I'm denying your license application even though I approved theirs. You still have to have the same non-discriminatory rational reason, and it could be because, like a quota, we don't want any more licenses in the city or in this location, or whatever explanation is given. So the justification for a quota could just be stated on the record by the same number of alderpersons it takes to deny going over quota. That's the reason why I brought it up as a way of increasing some efficiency, but losing nothing.
Mr. Chair.
I can see both sides of this argument. I think I agree a bit with Alderman Barzak's argument that I don't know if this committee always has, in the past anyway, had the gumption to just say no. And going into the future, take that liquor license on Highway 100. I would have been absolutely against that. And I told the gentleman last week, I would have been against that because they don't belong on Highway 100. But what taking this a step further, so you have a tavern, it's on a major arterial, and the neighbors say, we really want it, and you say, okay, we're gonna grant it. Okay, same density, same everything in terms of, let's just assume everything is the same as that as the next person who comes in. Same general density, people want it. Same spacing of bars, and you decide at that time to tell that person no. That person wouldn't have a case against the city?
If those are the reasons, no, not a case, not at all.
We simply don't want you.
And
Man, I can't see that holding up in court. I just can't believe it. You did that. You allowed him to do it because he's this.
Well, is it
this
race
gender
issue?
or
Is it a
this race
sex
or
issue?
whatever? And over here, you didn't let me do it because I was this gender, this race. I just don't see that.
Changes the facts.
Yes.
But they claim that's what it's for, even though it's not the reason you're doing it. But they claim you're doing it for that reason.
Well, then, I guess to play this out further, what would be the rationale for denying the second one? What would be the real reason you say no?
I don't know.
You're over quota.
So,
Which would be an issue, because then the person would just argue it's pretext because you went over quota for the last person.
Unless you didn't.
But you had a reason for going over. You brought in an $8 million development.
So now your reason for denying the person is because you didn't bring in an $8 million development, and they did, even without a quota.
Yeah, but at least it's a standard. And I disagree with the idea. I disagree with, that one location that we just approved last time, it was, a place, there was no opportunity for redevelopment. I mean, there was nothing else that could go there. It made sense in that case, but, what if the city, can the city say, we know we're gonna have 10 new businesses opening up on Highway 100. We got a brew pub and some really nice trendy restaurant coming in. No, we don't want you here because we want them there.
That's not only the case, true and lawful, but there's a case exactly on point saying.
True and lawful?
Yeah.
You can deny someone's license because even if they applied earlier and you think that someone else who's applying later was someone you want to bring to, you could say no.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Roth.
this is going to go right along with the diluting of the license values.
Well, we don't care about that.
I know that. That's why I'm changing. And Alderman Barzak will remember this too, that right around, we got this letter. We all got it in this room, and nobody can find it anymore. Out of the Development Department of guidelines for granting tavern licenses. And I believe you know what I'm talking about, correct?
I remember seeing that.
And all of a sudden, it's gone. Nobody can find it. Came out of the Development Department the same time as we were getting sold on Parthenon, going in at, don't be smirking. I'm giving you the time frame. When they went in on
Conspiracy
84th and
theories.
Greenfield, that's when this letter and all the color pictures up on the board started showing up, like why we should be going over limit in our guidelines, and I believe the magic number was $7.5 million. Did that not stick out to you or not?
I thought it was, for some reason, 7.5, 8.
Okay. I'm just telling you that letter's out there, and nobody in development seems to know or care to look for it.
Must be the Russians. Anybody else have anything on this? The reason it's in front of us tonight, this is something that's been here, let's see, for over a year. I don't know, 11/19 this is dated. Thought we talked about this before that, way before that.
Like 2 months.
But it's just, I'm trying to clear up everything for this committee, so don't
You
leave
want
the
to leave
next
this over
committee.
for the next license?
For the next
Keep it
committee.
to March 3rd?
And so does anybody have anything?
Place it on file.
You want to just place it on file? Do you want to vote on it?
Or hold it?
Or, well,
I think what you're getting at, and this comes back to the lame duck session thing, where, and I was going to bring that up about item number 3 tonight too, but that's going to crawl into that anyways to the new council. But it's possible that we could have as many as 5 new members on this council. We're going to have 3 for sure, and it's possible. It's possible that you could have 5, and I would agree with that. I believe it is going to change. I would vote no if I had a vote on it next Tuesday, but I believe the proper thing would do, because of the lame duck thing, is to hold it. I mean, we're not having a council meeting because we don't want anything of controversy brought up on the 8th. So there's no council meeting. And just that right there tells you, let's place this on file and let the new council bring it back. That would be my opinion, but.
Yeah. I'll move to place on file.
Second.
is there any further discussion?
Gary, you already won. Be quiet.
Says the lawyer.
Gary, you won.
You're a lame duck, you shouldn't be talking.
Quack, quack.
I actually was talking to somebody tonight.
Is it on the
was
agenda?
asking about.
Is it on the agenda?
No,
No, we can't talk about it.
but it has to do with the same.
Okay.
I'll say that.
Okay.
And just to clarify, I know it's clearly a joke, but to me, it's not about winning or losing or anything. I'm trying to
Oh, right.
make
Yes.
a statement, and
Go ahead.
however the council decides is what it is. It's just, I want to make sure.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Next committee can worry about it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move we put number 19 and 20 on file.
Okay, these are the, are they both the same? Oh, wait, we gotta wait on, 20.
These are old communications.
Well, the gun range thing we never settled.
Right. I don't think we can. And Kale's going to tell us about it. Here's the authority.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure, maybe I can settle it. So in researching this issue, there are a couple of recent state laws that were passed regarding sports shooting ranges, which my argument basically is that we should not be licensing that activity in the first place.
that they can do it without a license.
Correct. If there's any interest in regulating sports shooting ranges, it has to be done through the zoning regulations, but not licensing.
And how about the building permit and how to build it? Because that seemed to be that was the main issue here that we had.
There is, the only thing that our building inspection should do is apply the existing commercial building code, which has nothing to do with firearms or shooting ranges necessarily. It's just quality of construction, electrical, plumbing, that type of activity. That's really the only limitation on sports shooting ranges. In fact, there's a separate state law prohibiting the city from shutting a place down for unsafe conditions without a court order. And even then,
Of course there is.
if done so, it can be lifted very quickly by the owner.
Mr. Chairman?
Alderman Rowe?
Has it, has the occupancy been issued?
Oh, I imagine.
Or
The shooter shop, I think.
I don't know if the occupancy has been issued, but we would be...
They never finished that.
No, it's not done.
They never finished the shooting range.
Okay, and I think we should, and if we can't, we can't, but there should be some sort of thing where we can figure out if it's safe or not. If it's just,
Cardboard
the way
walls.
it's, exactly, I was going to say drywall, but you said, the way it's laid out, they're, to my knowledge, and that's my district, they're shooting towards the neighborhood. It's not like they're shooting towards a gravel pit. I think that's something that would be, maybe want to look at.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigel.
So shooter shop on 84th Street, their existing gun range is in the basement.
Correct.
Of the historic one that's there.
Correct.
And they put a building on the south side, or, excuse me, the west side that
west,
they've started
yep.
building. I guess my question for the business owner is, what steps has he taken? What, is it has the shooting business outgrown his basement range? Is it he's invested time and tens of thousands and possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars in this new building construction. You know, I'd hate to see us stomp out a small business owner, regardless of what he is. I mean, is this, you know, I understand if we can't license it, or if the attorney believes we shouldn't be licensing it. So is there some rule that says can I go in the basement of any business and fire a weapon? No. Is that correct?
You cannot discharge a weapon unless it's at a sports shooting range.
Okay.
in the city.
And we don't define sport shooting range.
A sports shooting range has a definition in 895-527 statutes, actually.
No. But there's no physical construction with block walls and...
No, and in fact, in 2017, the state passed a law that required the Department of Natural Resources to certify technicians and engineers on how to design sports shooting ranges. I searched for probably 30 minutes and couldn't find anything that the DNR had done to satisfy that state law.
Well, we didn't want to invite the DNR in on anything, I don't think.
Well, I mentioned this to my wife, and she says, well, what'd they do for the police shooting range?
Exactly, which has had problems and even lead abatement issues and, right?
You know, so we do have experience with building a shooting range, you know, and who built it? Whoever built it, did we inspect it the same way we were worrying about inspecting this? Or?
So
Go ahead.
the way it would work is if the city is aware of an unsafe condition, this is the term used in section 895.08, a clear and immediate public safety hazard is the standard that we have to meet. In order to do so, you have to go to court with a specific description of what that is to get a temporary closure.
How long is that process?
You got to file a petition with the court and provide all the evidence necessary to show that an unsafe condition that originates from the sport shooting range could reasonably be expected to cause death or serious injury to an individual. So you have to show that someone could essentially be shot.
That's a super high standard,
very
which
high
we would
standard.
likely never meet.
Unless they're shooting toward gold.
Wood roof.
Mr. Chair?
Wood wall.
The issue is
Right.
that they're shooting down.
But you actually have to go to court, go through the entire process first before you can, you could literally stand there and say, gee, I'm seeing bullets whizzing out of the top of this thing. I have to go to court first for an order to...
I will read the statute because it's going to, I think, explain to you the position here. No law enforcement officer or court may require the owner or operator of a sports shooting range to cease or suspend any portion of its operations, the use of a particular firearm type at the sports shooting range, or the conduct of a particular activity at the sports shooting range because of an alleged or actual unsafe condition at
Or actual.
the sports shooting range.
Wow.
Except as provided in paragraph B, which paragraph B explains how you get a petition from a court. And that, is that?
I'm not anti-gun, but my God, that's ridiculous.
Well, you should, yeah, there should be something.
I think I know who wrote that statute.
Mr. Chair?
Probably.
Or his initials NRA?
I'll wait my turn. I wonder if we should hold this and talk to Ed Lisinski, bring him in front of us, because,
We did that once before.
well,
This has nothing, but technically ours has nothing to do with that. It's just, well, to take it back, it is a building inspection.
yes. and
Which
then-
really means it should have been at safety and development.
Again, Mr. Chair, how do we know what those walls are like? We're sitting here joking, going, well, they could be drywall, and they could be.
Exactly, that's my point.
But,
How do we know? So let's bring him,
but there is no standards.
Yeah, and how do I know what's enough? Maybe 2 feet of drywall is enough. I don't know. It could be layers of drywall. That might be a great way to stop a bullet. I don't know.
okay.
Any firearm, though.
Geez, this sounds like, back in 11 of
That's-
17.
what-
We said, we talked about the exact same stuff, except we got more clarification from the state.
State's tying our hands more.
Steve,
I just want to explain that it's,
Oh, 17.
it's on this agenda from 2017.
Right.
Okay.
Because at the time, we were licensing gun ranges, and Ed and Bins came out because they have to do inspections on our certain licenses, and he wasn't able to do the inspections, and that's how this communication came about, because of the license that we originally had that now
no, we can't do.
So that's why it's on the license and health.
Incredible.
And Mr. Chair,
That really is incredible.
the law that created this thing that I'm reading to you was actually enacted on March 29th of 2018, so after this communication came in, this was enacted. I think that's why it's clearer today, because that's what I'm citing as the reason as to why you can shut a place down.
Can you give me the statute again?
Section 895.08.
That's incredible.
Okay, so I think what we can do is, I think we can place this on file. And just get
Place on
everything.
file.
Second.
Do we have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. This is from last year, the list, so that can just be placed on file? Okay.
Move, item number 20, I move to place on file.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Discussion regarding number 21, options for serving alcohol at the farmer's market. Okay,
There was no jacket online. I don't know what this is about.
this is just for discussion. I don't know, is this any,
Mr. Chair?
this is new, so.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I was actually at the Farmers Market Committee where this was discussed, and Kate was there also. And the idea that is being floated is that there may be a time where someone will want to have an event at the farmer's market that would have more than just beer and wine. You know, it could be a Bloody Mary contest or something where hard alcohol has to be served. And we don't have the ability to issue temporary liquor licenses of that nature, correct?
For intoxicating liquor.
For intoxicating liquor, for.
Was there any other kind of liquor? Oh, sorry.
Specified because in the state of Wisconsin, in the state of Wisconsin, wine actually falls under intoxicating liquor.
Yeah, so we can't, so strictly speaking, there shouldn't even be wine.
No, there is a temporary
There's temporary wine, okay, okay.
license.
So, so really the only way to do that is to, for us to essentially issue an over quota license to an operator that would be essentially operating the bar combination fee at the farmer's market. We'd probably enter into a lease with someone. They would lease that from us, and they would have a small portion of the farmer's market building, maybe part of the office, that would be their regular licensed premises. And then when they do events, with our permission, they would extend their premises into the entire farmer's market area. Did I sum that up? Or?
So that was what was discussed at that meeting. I don't know if anything else, I can go into, there's two options that I would suggest today.
Go ahead.
That is one of them, is basically a permanent location that's very small, where just alcohol is stored and kept either during or only during events, or even when the events are closed if it's locked up. And then for events, extend the premises just for that day during the certain times. and just keep doing that for every event so that it always is licensed while an event's going on.
And that limits you to one vendor.
There'd be like an annual lease probably to
It
somebody.
would likely be an annual lease,
Yeah.
an annual license given to some, or a license, an annual lease given to someone to operate. And then the second way of doing it, though, would be, what that would do is make that licensee responsible for everything on the premises. It would allow for service of alcohol anywhere on the premises, so they could set up shops, they could have table service going in and out from the farmer's market, they could have someone walking around serving. And then on top of that, it would eliminate everyone else from being able to use that facility. So if you wanted to have multiple people serving alcohol, that would not be possible in that situation because only one
No Bloody Mary
licensee.
competition.
Well, there would be a way you could get around that.
You'd
Yeah.
you'd have to bring in agents or outside people to serve the same alcohol from the same vendor under one license, but then that person's entrusting those others to
Yeah.
act in.
It's a little sticky.
And he's also, that person's also responsible
Correct.
for anything that happens.
Correct.
And who,
Criminally responsible.
what are the qualifications for getting this license? Just anybody?
Same as any other license, it'd have to run through this committee and be approved by the council for a license, and then likely run through administration and finance to sign a lease with them as well.
I was going to say, there's probably a revenue.
So the second idea, though, that's a possibility is if there's interest in having multiple vendors, like if West Stallion or someone wanted to come in and serve, and you want other breweries potentially to serve at the same location, you couldn't do that with that licensed premises situation, but one alternative would be to essentially open up the farmer's market for open carry of open containers during this event, so that it's a single point of service, which would be the permanent licensed area. Customers would have to go to that spot, could purchase it, but then walk off the premises, which would only be a few feet away, and then walk through the market. So you could lift that prohibition on carrying open intoxicants in public just for certain days or for certain events. There is no state law against carrying an open intoxicant. So if it's ever prohibited anywhere, it's by local ordinance only. And also, there's no state law saying you can't walk off of a licensed premises with an open container. That's also only locally regulated. Most cities have both of those laws, but nothing in the state prohibits it. So if the city wanted to open up its ordinances for this particular situation, that could be an exception. So if there's interest in having alcohol service at the farmer's market, one of those two ways would accomplish it. The advantage, I guess, to having the unregulated or unlicensed area and opening up for open carry is that it would allow multiple vendors to come in and serve to that area. And the disadvantage, I guess, would be that there'd be no licensee responsible for that location. Now,
So, Mr. Chair, that means I could come bring a bottle of wine from home with me and come to the farmer's market and.
unless prohibited by ordinance. The ordinance likely would, I'm assuming you would not want carry-ins, but you could allow carry-ins if you wanted to. But if you did not want carry-ins, you could just prohibit people from possessing alcohol not purchased from a licensed vendor near the site or on the site.
Mr. Chair? We have those ordinances now where you can't carry an open can. Okay, are the, and I don't know this, and I'm sure Alderman White or anybody, car show and a la carte, those are community events, correct? Okay.
So that is one exception.
Right, that's what I have noted there.
If the city designates something as a community event, which essentially that would be what you'd do for those farmers market events as well.
How did you live this and I didn't?
Alderman Weigel.
So in the community event, someone could walk into a liquor store, buy a bottle of vodka, and walk around and just drink it.
If you didn't want to regulate intoxicating liquor in that manner, yes.
And also back to the farmer's market, if you remember when we first started talking about the SONA, the Mandel project there was the idea that one of those developments facing the farmer's market would be something like a brew pub or maybe, and I remember in the development discussions, we were talking that this establishment then, they could do a premises extension into the farmer's market, so the farmer's market would be like their front porch or their front yard for big events, maybe, whatever, for Fat Tuesday or maybe not in February, but, so, and obviously we don't see any developments that fleshed out for that property currently, at least I haven't. But the upside is that if we did do any of these, these would just be on a year-to-year basis, so that eventually, if a developer did say, well, you know, I'm gonna spend the $7.5 million on 60, or more, it would be more than that, on 66th Street there, and put in, and I'd like some assurance that there isn't competition across the street from me, and not that we could give them assurance that we'd license all of his premises extensions. But, so, I mean, but none of these two proposals would preclude that, because they're only gonna be temporary. There's not gonna be a big infrastructure investment. No one's gonna be spending tens of thousands of dollars on farmers market improvements as part of this. Or we could require some farmers markets improvements as part of whatever a lease that we could negotiate with somebody, correct?
Yes, so that would be a unique aspect of this, is because it's city property, the city would be not only the licensing authority, but the landlord as well. And so even though granting a license essentially creates a right for that person, or the right to continue to possess that, the city, as a proprietary landlord, could terminate a lease. You can continue to have your license, we wouldn't ever revoke your license, but you could terminate a lease just because it expires for another reason. So there's a lot more control over this. The licensee has to go in knowing that as well, which is why requiring improvements could be part of the lease, but you know, you just have to weigh what sort of demands you're placing on this person to make sure that they are able and willing to fulfill those demands.
Yeah. We have an ongoing discussion in the community about beer gardens, and obviously the county runs this traveling beer garden. And I'm not trying to say that our farmer's market could be what Estabrook Park is, but you look at all the improvements that beer garden, I don't know how many people have been there, have been able to generate there, and so maybe, maybe it is a beer garden there. Maybe there's a band there every Saturday night playing till 9 p.m. in the summertime. I don't know, but it's worth, having a look at and talking about. So.
Mr. Chair,
All in there.
how does Summerfest do it in State Fair? They're individual little vendors, and then it's just open carry allowed?
State fair is a whole different issue.
Yeah, let's skip State Fair. Yeah, there's-
State's not a good example.
Summerfest.
Okay, so Summerfest, I'm not sure exactly how they do it, other than concessionaire, maybe?
Yeah, I'm not sure how they do it, but I do know, like, Bastille Days, I know how to.
That was the other example. I was just
All
getting
the
my
street fairs.
Nope, Bastille Days is treated a little differently. They actually extend out, temporary extension of premises for all the bars along there, and they buy stuff and then walk off, and
I wouldn't.
This is being
I wouldn't look.
I know.
I wouldn't look to necessarily how Milwaukee handles their festivals.
yeah, Milwaukee has a whole set of statutes separate from the rest of the state on
They
licensing.
get some first-class city additional rights, so I wouldn't necessarily look to them for how they handle their
Well,
licensing.
and the only reason I'm thinking of that way is, you always say, why, what are our
Why were you
neighbors
inventing?
doing?
What are the neighbors doing? Right.
And I guess what puts the city in the best position from a liability standpoint? If you create an open carry area, is there any liability the city would take on if someone would injure themselves at the farmer's market, as
No.
owners of the farmer's market?
No, because if there's no state law that's allowing it, there's no way a city could be held liable for following state law. There's no requirement that a city prohibit open carry of alcohol. Plus, there are immunity laws for cities regarding licensing alcohol. So I wouldn't see any liability. from the
So
city's
either way, it's a
standpoint.
wash. So then which one presents the best income opportunity to the
We used to
city?
do it for Western Days.
Oh.
We allow it to open carry.
Oh, we still do for à la carte and.
Okay, this is,
So wait, look, to Mr. Chair,
go
to
ahead.
that question.
Go ahead,
So your question is exactly it, why I'm presenting the two options, and I don't know if I have a good answer on which one would be more beneficial from a financial standpoint. It's really more, I think, what approach do you want? You either offer it, on one hand, under the idea that Alderman Weigel presented, you offer it solely to one occupant, one operator, to be licensed and responsible for that whole location, then you'd give that operator more flexibility. If you would do it the other way, where it would be an unlicensed area, where it would allow temporarily open carry of open containers, then you'd give more flexibility, you'd have multiple operators, and that would be the advantage between the two of them. So it's really up to the.
Seem to be number two.
Mr. Chair?
You done?
But from a licensing standpoint, then every single one of those vendors would have to come in when they want to operate there and get a license, correct? A separate license each?
It depends, yes. If the goal is to sell alcohol, you either need to get a temporary Class B.
There go your 30 bars. I'm just kidding.
Which is,
Well, it'd be a temporary Class B. If it's a specific type of applicant, you could do that. You could have that existing one extend out, or breweries actually have the ability to pick a satellite location from the brewery. So you have Sprecher and West Allian and Lakefront show up if this is the location that the state DOR approved.
But from staff
liquor.
work, staff involvement and things, I mean, one of the reasons, according to that resolution that we placed on file regarding bars, is that it's too much work for, it's costing the city time and money to process all these different applications. I mean, so if you do individual licenses every time, they have to get approved by this committee, is that going to be a drain on our resources?
Well, I can speak to that since my resources. You mentioned earlier about what other people do. I do know places like Chill on the Hill is run by the Friends of Humboldt Park or something like that. So that's a not-for-profit club organization that takes out a temporary Class B license, and then they have breweries come in addition
That's
to that.
beer and wine only.
It's beer and wine.
In addition or under their license?
No, I only bring that up, it's beer and wine, because the issue is the intoxicating liquor, and that's why we're trying to come up with these different situations. Anybody can rent out the park and take out a temporary Class B wine and or beer license, and have beer and liquor as long as they're bona fide clubs or organizations, church societies, that kind of stuff. As far as resources, we're at the whim of licensees. The more events you're going to have with the temporary Class B licenses, the more applications we're going to have anyway. So it's something we just do and have to do, and we've dealt with it. There's applications. I've had organizations in my past provide a whole year's worth of licenses as long as they know, like a church, when they have their Fish Fry Fridays or something like that, they'll just submit a whole list. I think we have a couple that do multiple ones at a time. It's a matter of placing them on the agenda and processing the license. I'm sure we can figure out quicker ways
As long as they come
processing
proper-
a license.
proper amount of time.
There is also the ability, as far as staff time, and maybe I can tell the other committee this, but many municipalities do allow the clerk's office to issue those rather than going through the committee. The statutes actually specifically allow that ordinance to happen so that we could just issue them rather than having to go through the process of placing them on agendas as well and making them wait.
And why couldn't you do both? Because you're licensing a piece of the property, the building, and they have to get an extension of premises when they want to operate in a larger area. Couldn't you give them rights to every Thursday or whatever, and then for special events, they could still come through and get individual licenses throughout?
They could sign that.
Yes, so the way we work is that they'd have to describe, as long as they describe it appropriately as to the times and dates that they want the extension of premises, then the committee could approve that in one bulk motion for the entire year, if they know the dates they want to do it. And anytime that it's not extended would be available for other licenses. We would just be very careful about making sure they don't overlap and that people know that they can't buy from the normal place today because it's a different licensee today.
Man, that sounds like a better,
Okay,
most flexible.
okay, and on the number one plan, having one person having this license, because that gives that person like power, and if somebody comes there he doesn't like, or can he ask them for money for setting up, and
Just
I
like
can
you-
see problem.
Depends what the lease says.
Just, yeah, so from a licensure standpoint, yes, in that a person could charge a cover to enter the farmer's market and do all kinds of things like that, and not just like a bar. Because it's their licensed premises, they're responsible for it, and they have the rights to it at that time, and they could kick people out. But because the city's also a landlord, we could impose certain restrictions or provisions in the lease that would prohibit whatever activities the city doesn't want that person to utilize.
Yeah, I kind of like the second proposal a bit better. Alderman Weigel's next.
In the second proposal, back to the Bloody Mary thing, how would, I thought license extensions had to be contiguous with the licensed premises. They don't?
There is a debate on that. Traditionally, it has been contiguous. It's been treated that way by the DOR. I don't find any authority for that in law. I don't have any reason why the city couldn't grant non-contiguous extensions.
Okay.
But
it would limit it still to West Allis licensees.
correct.
So if we have a Bloody Mary contest, we couldn't call it Wonky's Bet or because we wouldn't let Saz's in, let's say, because he's in the city one. It would only be West Allis licensees that could extend their premises temporarily on this day and onto the farmer's market property.
Yeah, if that's the purpose, yes, then it would only be local licenses.
West Allis licenses.
Okay.
I guess that kind of answered my question. How are we going to pick that single vendor? Bid?
Write an RFP and see what people.
It's a reason for number 2.
The method would be at the council's discretion.
Well, and would it be a local establishment?
Again, at the council's discretion, if you want.
Okay, just so we have those options, okay.
Correct.
Okay, this is I would take it this is coming from a farmer market committee. It doesn't say that on here. But I know Cale's name's on every page. I don't know. The bottom
that's
of
good.
Bottom of every page, so I don't know.
He's read
what
them.
Chair,
that
this is,
means.
this is kind of a culmination between, we had a meeting with the administrator and Kale, me and Marty were there, so it was just something that came up, and I think it's just.
But it says on here, need to discuss license options for farmer's market and plan for new term, including April 21st.
Oh, that's a whole different matter. That's planning for your inauguration ceremony.
Oh.
So we're not having a party at the farmer's market with alcohol on the 21st?
So,
That was just in the
What
same
is-
email.
something,
Sorry.
did you say something?
No, I didn't.
Did you say something?
My only request would be if the committee wants to give me direction on either way, I can explore the idea more, maybe then draft some language for the committee's consideration, or maybe the future council's consideration, however, whatever the timing would work out.
I think we like the flexibility.
Sure.
The only thing about number 2 is, I think option 1 gives you the best chance, of making some revenue.
I think so. If we're.
And if you can do both, I mean, if you could do option 1 and say you get so many days a year with this option to be predetermined,
Yeah.
and the other days you can do the option 2 as well, you get even more flexibility plus an income opportunity.
Just to kind of see how it goes the first year.
Yeah, Mr. Chair?
Ellen Weigel.
There's probably a short list of at least West Dallas operators who'd be interested in this, and it might be worth having a conversation with, actually, it's a pretty short list that I'm thinking off of the top of my head, but there could be more. I'm thinking of one interested party.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there could be more.
two.
Yeah, I mean, we should at least, there should be a transparent public process, obviously, but I think if we could sit down and talk to somebody, people not in the business think that money falls out of the trees all the time as soon as you start, you tap a keg. But the reality is, you're gonna have to make payroll and all this,
Set up charges, take
it's
down,
not-
clean the
nothing-
lines before you leave.
None happens for free.
So where do we want to go from here?
Yeah,
What is?
I like the idea that we have a
like a
licensed,
blended approach.
we have a licensed guy who is there and he might want to do every Saturday afternoon, so he's selling beer and wine at the farmer's market all summer long while people are walking around at the farmer's market. But then, and again, that's going to depend on the operator, or the curds and kegs kind of thing,
So, so is that, we're just going to give like instructions to Cale where to go from there? Is that what you want to do?
What are you asking him for? He's a lame duck.
So
Why are you even asking? You're a lame duck.
I was looking around him.
I said right away, how are we going to pick the single vendor?
I like the bid, whoever bids the
That's
most.
what I-
Well, that's what it's going to have to
Okay.
be, but it's going to be a real complex thing. Yeah. This RFP is going to look pretty hairy, and we're going to have to be able to compare apples to apples if we get multiple bids. One guy might want every Saturday. One guy might want no Saturdays.
Okay, so we should
Yeah.
go that route.
Yeah. So
Whoever
Like an
offers the
RFP.
most.
an RFP.
When do we have the first function at the library?
Library, yeah,
Farmers
there you
market.
go. Let's have everybody get it.
When's the first farmer's market?
Or something, anything at the farmer's market.
When do they start? May? When's the farmer's market open? April?
Or April.
It's like the first Saturday
I
of
was saying,
May.
well, this would obviously have to be, if we're considering it, this should be done before farmer's market even opens.
No, I don't think necessarily.
But you got the license period too, so that starts.
Yeah, July 1 would be a license.
You could start with option 2 this year, and next year add in the option 1 and option 2, right? I mean,
And really the nice thing is, no matter what, the city would be the landlord in this case, and so if one option is not working, you could switch between the two, and it's
Yeah.
not, you're not binding yourself to anything by choosing either.
We're not investing any money in it, really, staff time, but that's it.
I just like the idea of creating a revenue stream for the city.
If it makes money.
So you bring a resolution?
I can bring an ordinance change to the council based on either option or both. I mean, it doesn't, however, whatever's easier for the committee to, I guess, process. you want to try, it might be confusing trying to present both because they do
Right.
have similar sounding or similar effects, but they are different. I don't know, I try to think of a way to present it, I guess, in a way that would make sense. So I could do both in a more formal presentation, or I could just pick one if you know which way you want to go.
Might be easier to start the year with two,
still
but I
for
think
two.
long-term, the city should look at number one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still see number 2 as the better of the two options, and in particular, if I'm a licensee, I would not want to go under option 1 and be responsible for all these things that I don't have control over, that people are all drinking under my license, and that just imparts liability onto me and creates a big headache for me.
So it's 2-2, what do you?
Well, again, it kind of matters, and it depends on who's going to use. So I'm picturing like a person who wants to host parties there for weddings on the Friday night before the wedding, or I don't know. I'm picturing that kind of thing. Maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. Are we thinking this is? I'm thinking like an exclusive vendor. You come maybe every Saturday and Thursday, and they're going to be open selling beer on Thursdays and Saturdays. And then all the other days of the year, maybe you go with option 2. So that one person has exclusive rights to days when there's a lot of population.
Certainly be
there.
more,
There's
it's
a
going to be more
monetary
profitable.
value for that.
Yeah, it makes more sense to somebody, for a licensee, from a monetary point of view, for that. Not so much for the Bloody Mary competition.
Yeah.
Because in those single operator events, yes, that's a way to
Right.
make money. But you're right, if it's going to be, and maybe the Bloody Mary contest is an outlier, and we're spending a lot of time talking about something that's not going to happen.
Right.
But
I'm just thinking, if I'm not a bar owner, but if I was an owner, I would, and I had Thursdays and Saturdays, I had rights to this,
yeah, I know I
this
have
place.
5 people over there and a keg cooler and.
Yeah, and all other days, I understand I don't have exclusive rights. We're going to allow to go that option 2 route on all days the farmer's market's not open. I guess that's what I'm picturing when I see both going forward.
And what about, Mr. Chair,
Holden Road.
what about Sunday with the treasure hunt, the trash to treasures? Can they sell there?
There you go.
On
Now we
that
got
day.
Tuesday, Saturday, or Thursdays, Saturday.
Well, Trash and Treasure is down to every other this year, and maybe.
Whatever.
Maybe.
How about at the CAD event that they
Yes,
have there?
yeah.
Well,
No, all I can.
Okay, well, but will he have that
But
option?
that brings up another question.
Well,
There's
Gotta
a
get a
CAD.
license.
This guy's got a license and it's a CAD event, and he wants to serve alcohol.
Well, like National Night Out.
The
Right.
contract.
We're the
Say
landlord,
no.
and that's the point. We're the landlord. We can say, you know what, you can't have National Night Out, we're closed.
Yeah, even though there's all these.
I think there's value in that. I would think.
I think so, too.
A Sprecher would say, man, I can serve beer, or not beer, but liquor every Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday now, or every other Sunday. And all the other days, I understand I don't have exclusive rights, but
Yeah,
Okay, so,
we need a contract for both.
Well, and I guess that's the thing, is it sounds like there isn't necessarily a dead set way either way, so I can try to present it in a more concise way. I could do a quick PowerPoint just to show the differences.
could you present a way to do it blended?
It can be blended in
Can be
a
blended.
way,
Yeah.
yes. It just, if you're gonna lease the entire farmer's market to allow the extension of the premises, it'd be a very odd lease, because at times then we'd be putting someone on there that's not necessarily, like if you want to rent it out for that wedding you're talking about on Friday night, but we have a lease that covers the whole farmer's market. you know,
It only covers it certain days on the farmer's market, though.
The lease.
So
Can a lease say only odd days? Or only Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and
it is
Saturdays?
unusual, but I'm trying to think of a reason why not, but it's, well, I'd have to look into it.
And one more thing, Mr. Chair, the boundaries, just for thought, the boundaries, the 2 parking lots,
Yeah, it would.
they're part of the farmer's market.
Let's talk about that.
The street in
It
between.
would be a decision to be made with the council as to where you want the boundaries. to
Right,
go.
that's just something to,
it's one of the things that maybe should be set on, when we discuss this.
Yes, so I would suggest the parcel itself.
because on some of the farmers,
Right.
the street to the, is it Orchard, is open also.
Part of the farmer's market. And that could be when we're doing extensions,
Allowed
Okay.
on this parcel, yeah.
if it's a big event.
So it's back in your court?
I'll put something together that's in a presentation format and then see where everybody wants to go.
I don't know how fast they're thinking of this or whatever, but
How fast can you do it?
I've already done it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I can get it by this Tuesday, but I can take a shot.
okay.
Mr.
If not,
Chair.
we do have another work late.
We have some events already scheduled for the farmer's market this summer. Has anybody come in for, I think Mark Lutz is he planning on doing some events there already?
know if we've
Has that
gotten
come
any
forward
yet,
yet?
but-
No.
No, nothing yet.
But we're
It
not.
will be coming in.
There will be a couple events probably there.
Well, what would he be applying for exactly?
Who did cakes and,
I like these.
oh, the Chris Kindle marked, that's in,
Well, remember, we can't license him, but it can be some bona fide club or organization.
well, hey,
Unless he has exclusive rights.
no.
And you write it in the
Or he
lease.
extends his premises.
So that gets back to the idea of having that satellite premises.
Yes.
Well, I
He
don't,
actually had,
yeah,
but the state came in and said no.
I would
remove it.
disagree with the state on that, but that's how it's traditionally been interpreted as you are, is that it must.
So you have your instructions on where to go from here, you think?
Yes, and
Kind of foggy, but they're there.
I'll take a shot by Tuesday, but it may be.
Okay, well, this committee still has we have another license and health meeting in March. I don't know when, probably the day before the council meeting, because certain people voted against the lame duck.
We can
recall.
take that back.
And so-
I was thinking about a motion to reconsider on that.
Okay, I think we should, hey, there's
Number 24, right?
There's a lot
We're on
of
number
work-
24 now.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and basically what the council did is shut the city down for a month. So anyways, it's not on the agenda.
We
No,
know
it is.
It is number
It's item
24.
number 24.
Scheduling them, okay.
Regular
Say
license and health committee.
you're meeting the necessary germaneness of the topic.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
But we're not.
Okay, so you got the instructions on that one on 21. Now, 22, discussion relative, this is from 819.
This is, Mr. Chair, this is
Yeah.
just the ongoing thing. Now that Nick and I have presented that document that I said I wanted my staff, or my office to have, now that we've gone through a few meetings with this list,
Right.
I just kind of wanted to explain what I have been weeding out based on past discussions and what this final list is ultimately going to look like. If you look on these, we have the three columns: DOT notes, local notes, and then the works notes. The works is the state DOJ report that I get. Basically, anything that's a conviction on there gets reported on that column, and will come to the committee. The only thing I've ever seen under local notes is if they're like a warrant is out, or I think there's one on tonight's about being on parole. So there's going to be a few notes on there. And then the DOT notes, I have been weeding out all the speeding tickets and seatbelt violations. Anytime there's a OWI that shows up, it appears here. Anytime there's an OWS, or operating while suspended, operating while revoked, they'll show up on here. The one question I had, though, is like the first person that we're going to talk about,
Well, let's talk about them.
they're on here because of the issues that showed up in their works report, and as well as she also had a couple OWSs, but there's other violations that I would normally weed out. I elected to just keep everything on here rather than
Are you
weed
like
everything out.
the
Do you see what I'm saying?
child safety thing? Or
You
which
talking
one?
about Alexandra Jackson?
Jackson, yeah. So the reason she's actually on here is the works notes, something showed up there, and then under the DOT notes, the OWSs. I would normally, like speeding, like the 11/22/17, the speeding one, that would normally be off. Do you want me to just remove it from these lists, regardless if she's got other stuff?
Basically, you're saying if there's stuff that doesn't pertain to what we're asking for, should you take it off?
Right.
Just to show that she has other things also, but,
Yeah.
okay, look at the people that we had here tonight. We didn't really do anything to them at all. I mean, there was the speeding things and everything were on there, and we didn't even talk about it.
Right, because I think Nick has told you
They're
to
not relevant.
consider that.
Right,
Yeah, but I think if we're going to bring someone in, we need to have the whole picture.
yeah.
That's
what you're saying.
why I have elected to
Right.
keep everything on at this point.
Better picture
until
of who they are. And what
you tell me
they're-
otherwise.
Okay, I think we should
Behavior.
keep it the way it is then.
Okay, so then that being said, I'll finalize my document. The only other question I came up in my mind about an hour ago is something that Alderman May mentioned about timing. There was one of the applicants you talked about earlier. You basically said it's been 12 years. They showed evidence of rehabilitation. Do you want to build any kind of timing in here now?
I thought
it was brought up before, and you said basically no, everyone
Well,
who's got
basically,
one.
why don't we just say, why don't we just keep it the same for the next 2 months?
All right.
The new You bring it up to the new committee, and if they want to do it, let them do it.
That's fine.
You know,
I have no
I
problem.
just think, because I thought we
Occurred to me when
we
you
gave
mentioned
that.
it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with how our committee, or Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
sure, go ahead.
I'm comfortable with how our committee acts on this
Right.
too, is that, you know, we generally, after a discussion, are approving a license, we just
Right.
want to have a discussion.
Right.
So.
And
Fair enough. All right, so that's all that was on.
and we made it through the change so far. Yeah, okay, I'm just putting, because there's no vote on it, it's just a discussion.
Right.
Okay, then item number 23, we start going through all our people here. Okay, now, we got this, the first one, Alexander Jackson, that's for an adult-oriented license? So even the old WSs don't come to play technically in that, correct?
I'll defer to the legal attorney.
No, I mean, to no more extent than the idea of operating without a license or operating while suspended has to do with a licensed activity. That's always the argument. OAS has as much to do with alcohol licensing as it does with any other type of license.
But I mean,
Operating,
if there was an OWI here, you know, it still wouldn't be pertinent to the adult license.
And OWI would be less pertinent than OWS, I
Right.
would argue, because at least you have the argument of one's a license, the other's a license.
Right.
So I think my notes here are saying there's a conviction in 2014.
Mhm.
That would be the one that's
Operating
most
without a
relevant.
Yeah.
And so, and there's also, looks like a retail theft in 15. So those are the two that I would say are most relevant in this case.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigl.
this license is essentially sales clerk at an adult video store, I'm assuming.
Right.
Okay. And we don't have any details on that 2014. That's a conviction, I assume, if it's another works?
Yep, I believe all the reports were,
That's a
they don't
conviction,
give much whys.
Yeah.
I don't think we should bring him in, my opinion, I don't know. Anybody else want to say?
I don't either.
Yeah, I just don't think it's pertinent, I don't think we should
Yeah,
call them in.
you just had to pay a fine on that escort one.
Well,
Okay.
I don't know what that was, I don't know what that conviction was for. Escort
So-
service operating without a valid license.
Mr. Chair, I could try to answer it.
Go ahead.
Generally, the concept of licensing escort services came around because it was becoming very difficult to convict people of prostitution. So if someone's charged with an escort license violation, it usually means they are suspected of being participating in prostitution.
Okay.
And so that is the reason that conviction would be relevant to this type of licensed activity.
Oh, yeah, then it'd be definitely
Well,
relevant.
and Mr. Chair, and then, if I could, is this an individual operating on their own behalf, or was this person what you'd call a, a madam or a pimp, or whatever was it running a criminal operation?
So that is exactly
A reason
the
to talk
type
to
of
'em.
factual inquiry that would be made.
This is the first time we've ever
First time I've ever seen
had
this.
anyone who's coming for
Yeah.
this license,
Yeah.
that was, anything was pertinent.
And again, I don't know details
Okay.
about that particular charge, but I'm just saying, my
Well,
history as a prosecutor, that's how.
But we can ask her the details when she comes in.
And if
uh,
she's been rehabilitated.
And see if she's been rehabilitated. I mean, 70s. Okay, so we're calling her in.
She's convicted and she had to give a forfeiture, is what I'm reading. She had to pay a fine.
It's a ticket. It's only a
Yeah,
locally licensed, local ordinance type violation. There's no state regulation. on it.
how long ago?
A while. It was 6 years ago.
14, 6 years ago. Okay, so we're going to call her in. Is the consensus okay?
Yes.
Okay, then we have the next one, Fisher.
Bring her in as guilty on prohibited alcohol concentration.
Okay. Agreed, that was our policy, and obviously, the next one,
Herky, bring her in. Yes.
2. Then we have,
Kaka, no, we don't need to.
I would
bring her
say
in.
Disorderly
no on that.
conduct,
Passing
okay.
illegally.
yeah, bring her and get her on it passing illegally, you know. How can we watch you
But the
serve
main,
alcohol?
the main reason was the disorderly.
Right, I
Deal.
know,
Yeah.
I know.
DC, sorry.
Okay, and then obviously the next one, Danielle.
Clinter, yes.
Yeah, I'd bring her in because she got the OWI, plus the homeless, resisting an officer, that's a big one.
Yeah,
That's
that was 20 years
98.
ago.
That's 98. 90, she didn't do too good around the turners.
The century, yeah.
Okay, the next one.
DC?
No,
No.
I would say no.
Yeah, unless there's a long record, I don't even know. Do we see DCs?
Jennifer Munson,
It
yes.
depends. Okay, that's her.
Okay.
OWI, and possession, a couple of years ago. A few years ago.
Yeah.
Time's flying. Okay, the next one,
Yes, what are the
Yes.
conditions of your parole? Can you serve alcohol?
on parole for aggravated
On parole.
batteries. So 13, 14, 15. Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll bring it her in. Then we have the next one, Rogers.
Next
OWS, liquor law violation.
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
I'd say no on this one.
11.
Yeah, I agree, no
Yeah.
on Rogers.
Okay.
Don't need to bring her in.
Schilling.
Unless you want to know how she got here.
Yeah.
Revoked driver's license.
Yeah, that's all right.
Schilling.
Entrapment.
Yes.
One
bring her-
OWI,
him
gotta bring her in.
yes.
St. Louis.
Yes.
OWI, of course. And then we have a possession on the 10th for Stark.
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
No.
Misdemeanor.
THC.
I would say no also.
Yep.
Agree.
All right.
That's it? Put that back. Like I said, we.
The system is better.
So, so then number 23, we can approve. We approve that?
Yeah, I'd like some direction. It's discussion, but.
No.
Oh, 23 is the licenses.
Is all the license? Well, that's for discussion. That's only for discussion.
Yeah, you have the
Okay.
direction.
But a motion to approve the remaining ones.
Yes.
Yes.
Move to
Yeah.
approve the remaining ones on item number 23.
Oh.
We usually just bring those back.
We
as
bring
a
it all
separate-
back as one
But
list.
this
This is a discussion.
This is a
Bring back
discussion.
on the
Yeah, this is-
consent
this is
agenda
just
those
review.
individuals.
That's right.
Will appear on the recess meeting.
Okay, so we're not going to vote on that. I'm putting it over here.
That makes
All
sense,
right.
okay. Either one would be fine.
Okay, next meeting, well, we got, rescheduling it. We would have to do it right before the next council meeting. I figured the Monday before the next council meeting. So if we have any license, we have anything, we'll take it up. Unless, on the 3rd, there's somebody's going to put up for reconsideration and the vote's going to change.
Yeah, the committee of the whole meeting.
At 6.
Yes.
No, this isn't talking about the 3rd. Where
You
I
say
was ta-
23rd?
I was talking about the next one. It would be the 16th of March to have a license and health meeting before. that
Before
way-
the final council.
Before the final council meeting. So anything that we do can still go.
Sure,
for-
yes.
So there's nothing
16th will
hanging out
work.
there.
Yeah.
So we can do that. Why don't we schedule?
16th?
Yep. March 16th, right.
Well, I just
At
want,
6 p.m.?
I just want to make sure nothing's.
A Monday.
Right. Well, it is now.
Yeah, yeah, we're the license.
But
East
you know who we-
Allis Neighborhood Association is having.
is that when they're having this, in this room?
They're, I don't
Candidate
Right.
forum?
know if that's a
On the
candidate
16th?
forum.
Yeah,
It
it's
just says
supposed to
East
be-
Allis Neighborhood
Yeah, they're supposed
Association.
to have candidate forum. What time?
What district is it?
6 o'clock. 6 to
First
7.
district.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll
What
go to
district
that.
is that?
Is it going to impact you?
Impact me personally?
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to see him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah,
That's all.
you might want to be there.
What time is it though? Usually, the last time it was 6:30. I thought the last one.
6.
time?
6.
6.
There you go. Thank you.
Thanks for
Mr. Chair, I
came
did
just for that, didn't you?
Go ahead.
did verify and get moved meetings on the 10th, and,
Well, 10th, oh, yeah, we have nothing on the 10th.
right.
But, wait, that's, no, that's Tuesday.
That's still a month and a half with
Isn't
no.
there CDA on the Tuesday?
That's the one I had moved out of here.
Okay.
They're meeting, but in a different location.
Yeah, well, I'm on the CDA, so is,
I am too. How come it's not on my calendar? March
They
16th?
sometimes don't have meetings. They,
Yeah.
they don't
March
know
10th.
until the Friday before if they have a meeting.
Oh, yeah, then I am happy to have a meeting.
How about the 9th?
the
tell
9th,
you
you
what.
guys probably got license, administration
The
finance.
9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th will all work.
Are we having administration finance on the 9th?
I don't know. And so
Nobody
far,
told-
the answer
Nobody
is
told
no.
you yet?
Right, yes.
The 11th, this is going to be full of election equipment.
Right,
That's okay.
okay.
We can have it down in the Rothskeller.
Yeah, we can have it, we can have it in the,
Rothskeller.
or the one by the mayor's office like we used to. Oh, we like to televise them though.
Yeah, the Rothskeller's cut is wired
That's
for
right,
sound.
that's right.
Art gallery's open too.
Art gallery.
That's what he's,
The
that's what
Rothskeller.
he means. Yeah.
I'll remember that.
The comb room.
Yeah.
Comb room?
That's, the comb is in the,
Oh, that's where they moved CDAs to art gallery.
They did move the CDs there?
Yeah, but they don't have to if you don't, because I was trying to look ahead to see if,
Right.
I didn't, I forgot you were on it.
If neither of us are there, they may not have a quorum.
That would solve it.
We'll take care of that, CD.
The 11th is open.
So what's the date?
The 11th is a Thursday.
no, it's a Wednesday.
And what time?
March Thursday. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to talk.
Oh, it'll be 6 o'clock. It's just moving your regular meeting. to the
Okay.
6 o'clock meeting.
So we're the 11th.
The 11th.
Well, let's put down 11th
6 p.m.
with, unless there's a change at the next council meeting.
Got it.
Excellent.
Okay. Hang on.
Put it in my calendar here.
Ashley Keel? Julio Crespo? So, okay, now, this is 5 and 7. They were requested to come in here to show us if they had rehabilitation, and they're not here. Do we give them a second chance? We haven't in the past.
We haven't, and with the new structure, that them not showing is their evidence that they didn't show.
So both of these we're going to.
Motion
to deny.
Motion,
Okay.
motion to deny based on non-appearance.
And failure to show rehabilitation.
Okay, so Haas made the motion.
Second. I'm
Okay,
sorry, I
Vote
didn't hear you.
seconded.
Alderman Haas.
Thank you, Alderman Rowe.
Vote second.
Very well.
Okay,
Art gallery.
is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, those are taken care of. We're good. And what else were we holding here? Not that.
That was it.
That's not that.
I think that's it.
Oh, and then we're going to be, on number 16, we're going to be calling them in, the owners of the bar.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so with that.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned.